Hi, this is Congressman Tom Cole from Oklahoma, 4th District, another one of our congressional weekly chats. This has been a very extraordinary week, obviously, most importantly for the country, but certainly particularly for Oklahoma. Let me start right off the top with the President's decision to appoint my friend Markwayne Mullin, our Senator, to the position of Secretary for Homeland Security. First, congratulations to Markwayne. I mean, this is an extraordinary thing. Not very often a state our size gets a cabinet member. Not very often a state our size has someone with the personal relationship that Markwayne has with the President of the United States. It's not very often that we have somebody as accomplished as Markwayne Mullin to take such an important position. Look, this is a guy that's been successful at everything he's ever done. An extraordinary businessman who built up a personal business enterprise that took over a failing family plumbing firm, turned it into a brand name in Oklahoma, sold it for an extraordinary amount of money. And this is a guy who, if you know his wife, Christy, married very well, has a wonderful, wonderful family of both adopted children and obviously children that he and Christy have had. I couldn't be prouder of him as a family man, quite frankly. This is a guy whose work ethic is unmatched, and somebody that served with distinction in the United States House for a decade, won a Senate seat. When he got to the Senate, was put on not only the Senate Armed Services Committee, which our former Senator Jim Inhofe held, very important spot for Oklahoma with three major Air Force bases, and of course Fort Sill, Tinker, Vance Air Force Base, Altus Air Force Base, McAllister Ammunition Depot. That in itself is big, but then also got put on the Appropriations Committee. And I will tell you, he's been my wingman in the United States Senate as chairman of the Appropriations Committee, helping us do some great things for Oklahoma. So he was off to a brilliant start in the United States Senate, also worked as liaison, but now again to be tapped for such an important position, and one that every American has an interest in. I mean, this is going to be the guy that heads up the agency, not only that protects our borders, not only that makes sure that people that are illegal, entrants and potentially criminal entrants in the United States are dealt with, but FEMA, and we're a state with a lot of disasters. Secret Service, that's the agency that protects the president. The Coast Guard. I mean, I can go on and on about how important the position is and how fortunate the country is, I think even more than Oklahoma, to have him in this position. So, Markwayne, congratulations. Oklahoma, you ought to be proud of one of your native sons who has achieved so much so quickly, and I'm convinced will acquit himself with great distinction, great honor, in a very important position. So that's a pretty breathtaking thing for the state. Now, on top of that who's going to be next in the United States Senate? And that will be decided over the next several months. There's a lot of potential candidates, a couple of them in Congress. My colleagues, Stephanie Weiss and my very good friend, they're both actually very good friends, excuse me, Kevin Hearn from Tulsa are clearly looking at this very closely. They're very important members of the House. I would miss both of them. Stephanie serves with me on appropriations. She's done an outstanding job. Kevin is also in House leadership and on Ways and Means. We haven't had anybody on that committee in a long time. So each would be superb senators. And then there'll be a lot of people in Oklahoma that I don't even know. There's statewide officials. There's my friend, Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell, who not running for anything now, but might look at this, might look at something else. There's a whole range of qualified people. So this is going to upset the apple cart in Oklahoma politics. I've had a couple of flattering calls urging me to run. Let me assure you, I am not running for the United States Senate. I am chairman of Appropriations in the House of Representatives. That's been my dream job. No Oklahomans ever had it before. We've been able to do some great things for the state here. This is where I intend to stay, and this is the right path for me. But again, there'll be other people, there'll be people none of us know that look at something like this. Probably not a lot of people, you know, I can assure you not a lot of people knew who Don Nichols was when he went back in 1980. So we'll sort of see how it goes. And as a rule, I stay out of these sorts of things. I trust Oklahoma voters to make good decisions, and we'll see what happens. But pretty exciting. And then, of course, Governor Stitt will appoint an interim person once Markwayne leaves. They will not be able to run again, but they'll serve Oklahoma in a very important position for 8 or 9 months until January of next year. And so we'll be interested to see who the governor appoints. Obviously, all of us in the delegation that are not running for the Senate, and even those who are, will do everything we can to help that individual when he or she arrives to Congress. But again, that's totally the governor's prerogative, and I'll be very interested to see who Governor Stitt chooses. I'm sure he will make a good choice in that matter. So, quite a week in Oklahoma politics, with reverberations that will go on for many months as the people of Oklahoma make some important decisions about who they want in the United States Senate, and then should people currently holding office, like in Congress, run, who they want in those seats to replace them. That's number one. For the country, no question the big event of the last week has been the decision by the president to strike Iran. And this is a decision I know he made reluctantly. He had been in negotiations to try and persuade Iran to abandon its terrorism. Quite frankly, it's the largest sponsor of state terrorism. It's a country that has killed tens of thousands of people since the regime came into existence in 1979. At least 1,000 of those have been Americans, American soldiers at the Marine barracks in Beirut in 1983, American, or maybe that was 84, I'm sorry. Americans in Iraq when we were there in force. It's targeted American citizens. So there's been that element, but it's destabilized the whole region. It's been the main instigator of violence against Israel, and the Israelis, of course, are cooperating with us very closely in this effort. They're a strong ally, a good friend, and they've had to deal with this regime like we have for many decades, and thousands of their people have been killed by either Iran or the proxies that it's supported by supporting terrorist groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis. We could go on. I mean, it's a malevolent, evil regime. Now, normally you try to contain those regimes, and I think that's what the president's trying to do. Basically, and I've been in a lot of classified hearings over this, so there's a lot I cannot share with you. But number one, they continue to try to be a nuclear power, and they have the capacity to produce multiple nuclear weapons. Right now, the big problem is they don't, we think, have the capacity to deliver them, but they can make them. And we've always said we're never going to allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Number two, they've developed the ability through a very robust drone and ballistic missile programs to rain havoc all over the Middle East, including at bases and facilities operated by Americans. You're seeing that operate right now during the war itself. And the sense was they were going to be able to have so many ballistic missiles and drones that it would protect the nuclear program as it continued to develop. So this is really, you know, we would love it if the regime was overturned. That's not what we're trying to do here. It would be a nice byproduct, but the American military mission is to make sure that Iran cannot project power beyond Iranian borders, that it cannot threaten us with nuclear weapons, that it cannot threaten its neighbors with missiles and drones, and that it become a better actor in the world scene. So is this dangerous? I would tell you it is dangerous. I We've already lost 6 military personnel. Is it expensive? It absolutely is expensive. Is it important for the long-term security of the United States and the peace of the region? I believe it is. I do not believe President Trump would have undertaken this measure lightly or impulsively. His whole career has been about ending foreign wars, avoiding those things. But he's never afraid to use American power. He's not afraid to do it when an Iranian general, Soleimani, was wreaking havoc and killing Americans in Iraq. He struck decisively and killed that general. Not afraid to use it in Venezuela, where we had a drug, a drug leader, a narco kingpin running a country who had already been charged with crimes in the United States, he struck there. But he's never put boots on the ground unless he had to, and he's always brought them home quickly when he did. So I do not see this as a protracted war on the ground. I do see it as a serious military effort working in alliance with Israel, but other Arab countries who are also joining the fight right now to make sure that Iran cannot do mischief beyond its borders. The Iranian people need to think long and hard about what kind of regime they want to run their country. And I have great sympathy for them. It's not as if they can go to a ballot box and change who's leading their country. They live in one of the most dictatorial, repressive, brutal regimes. Thousands of them have already been killed simply because they demonstrated against a brutal regime. This isn't America where if somebody gets killed in a demonstration, we worry and we appropriately grieve that and look at that and what can be done to make sure that doesn't happen. This is a government where literally they will kill thousands of their own people who are just demonstrating in their streets, unarmed, So we wish the Iranian people well in this. It's up to them to make a decision if they can over what kind of regime they'll have. We had to do this as a country ourselves 250 years ago, and it cost thousands of American lives to make ourselves a free and independent country that we control rather than a foreign despot. I think it will be extraordinarily difficult for the Iranian people. It will demand a great deal of courage, but they do have an opportunity here. It'll be up to them how they seize it. I think there will be help for them if they decide to do it, but I don't underestimate the danger they're in for a moment from the type of regime they have. What we have to make sure, and what our job here is, that regime must never be allowed to threaten us with a nuclear weapon or threaten our friends in the region with an overwhelming ballistic missile and drone capability that can rain death and destruction down on them. I think that's the mission. We'll see how it goes. The opening days have been extraordinarily successful. You can measure that by, and again, I go to a lot of briefs on this. The opening day, there was a huge Iranian missile barrage back. Most of it didn't get through. And each day, the number of missiles they've been able to launch has declined. We're 7 days in now, and their missile capability is 91% less, we're told, than it was on day one. And so they can launch individual missiles, but not swarms of missiles anymore. And we're going to systematically destroy their ability to do that. The Israelis are as well. I suspect there'll be an effort to dismantle the infrastructure of the Republican Guard, as it's called, in Iran. But let's just be clear, this is a deeply entrenched dictatorial state, and our goal is not to change that. That's up to the Iranian people. But our goal is to make sure they can no more do the things that they've done, where they kill thousands of people, where they do things like hold our embassy personnel hostage for 400 days, where they kill our Marines in another country in Lebanon, where they undermine our efforts in Iraq by IEDs, explosive devices placed on the roadside, those sorts of things. Look, they brought this on themselves. The president made a hard decision, but I think he made the right decision, and every member of our delegation has been supportive of that decision. We voted on the floor of the House to support him. In the not too distant future, I would expect we would get what's called a supplemental expenditure, an effort to finance our military activities in the Gulf. I will certainly support that. I'll have a role in shaping what it is as the chairman of the appropriations, but we're never going to not support American men and women when they're fighting and they're in harm's way. I've had to make these decisions sometimes even when I did not agree with presidential action. I did not agree with President Obama's decision to do 7 months worth of bombing in Libya, a country that was no longer in the terrorist business and had turned over all of its nuclear weapons. But he made that decision. I was critical of that decision, but I never wavered in supporting the men and women that were doing that mission. So I voted for the financial support of the effort, and I'll do that again. Once men and women are in harm's way, and that decision has been made, then I think it's an obligation of members in Congress to step up and be supportive. So we will keep you posted on this. This is a changing situation. There is a lot happening. Again, as I said, I sit in a position where I see more intelligence than most members. There's a lot I can't tell you. I'll tell you when I can, but I'm comfortable the president made the right decision. I'm comfortable that these opening days have been extraordinarily successful because of the skill and the courage of American soldiers. They're the best in the world and the best equipped in the world, and believe me, they are acquitting themselves exceptionally well. So we grieve for anybody who's lost. Our friends in Iowa took probably the hardest hit so far. They happen to have a National Guard unit in Kuwait. It got hit. They lost 4 of their residents, citizen soldiers serving the country. We have people like that in harm's way as well. We've had people in Kuwait. The governor's son served in Kuwait as part of the Oklahoma National Guard. He's not there now, thank goodness we're not there. But, just keep those families in your prayers and remember the sacrifice that those people made. Now let me turn to a related matter, the last matter I'll talk about, and what's an unusually long congressional chat. We did have an important vote this week on Homeland Security. As you recall, we were able to keep almost all the government open. We actually worked together across party lines, but the Democrats made the decision in the United States Senate, we got this bill through, to literally not fund Homeland Security. Now, to be fair to them, none of us knew about Iran when they made that decision, but not funding Homeland Security is always a mistake. Not funding the government, I will tell you, is always a mistake. But in this case, this is the agency, has 23 different, this department has 23 different agencies within it that do things like the Secret Service, where they protect the president and our senior executive people. They also do law enforcement work and counterfeiting. The Coast Guard, nobody mad at the Coast Guard. They protect our shores. They interdict drugs. If Americans have a maritime disaster, they're there to try and save lives. They're an extraordinary group. FEMA, we probably deal with FEMA more than any other state in the union because frankly we have more disasters than any other state. We always think of tornadoes, but we have wildfires, which we're going through right now. We have winter storms with ice, which we've gone through. So that's a very important agency to Oklahoma. But there's a lot of other things in that department you probably don't know very much about. BioShield, which protects us from the release toxic gases that terrorists might use. That's all shut down. The National Police Academy, which trains our first responders and our police officers, not the only training outlet, but the most important one, is shut down. Getting that back open is extraordinarily important, and we've been able to pass that bill twice through the House. So the bill, technically, I authored because it's produced in my committee. We were able to do that again this week. We got a little Democratic support, but not much. Only 4 Democrats voting for it. I know they're upset about the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, I think inappropriately so, but the President has dealt with them in good faith, and frankly now we have a change of leadership in the entire department. Because for Markwayne Mullin to become the Secretary of Homeland Security, the President made a decision to relieve the person that was there. This ought to be enough for Democrats. They want to continue to discuss changes in Homeland Security. That's fine. Some have already been made. There's some in the bill, body cameras for police officers, extra training to de-escalate violence. These are things Democrats and Republicans agreed upon. But shutting down this agency is irresponsible and irrational. And it's hurting thousands of men and women who aren't getting paid, but they're still doing their job. Every time you go to an airport and you're getting on an airplane, thank those FEMA officials that are making sure that nobody getting on that plane with you has a bomb or a weapon that would put you at risk. They're working, they're doing their job, and they're not getting paid. That's inexcusable. They have nothing to do with the debate that's going on up in Washington, D.C. about immigration and customs, which, by the way, is already fully funded for the next several years. So this is simply a political temper tantrum by Senate Democrats, and it's something, honestly, they should be ashamed of. I would be ashamed of. I'd be ashamed to walk through that line saying you're not getting paid because I will not cast a vote. Now let's be clear here. The majority of the United States House and the majority of the United States Senate favor paying our men and women. This is Democrats who are in the minority in both chambers using something called the filibuster, which you have to get to 60 in the United States Senate, 51 is a majority, as a weapon, and they're using it against the American people. They're using it against keeping our people safe. I think it's reprehensible. Senator Schumer, the leader of the Democrats, made the right decision. We didn't allow a shutdown last year, but he got a lot of grief from Democrats that just hate Donald Trump so much that they're willing to cut off their nose to spite their face. They're willing to punish the American people because they don't like the president. Look, I've had a lot of presidents I haven't agreed with. I've never done anything like this. Never supported it. My party's done it. It was the wrong thing to do when we shut down the government during President Obama's tenure, and we were lectured by Democrats sternly and severely and repeatedly for years. Now, Democrats in the United States Senate have shut down the United States government, or portions of it, 3 times in less than 4 months to try and achieve political gain. And frankly, the overwhelming majority of Democrats in the House have done exactly the same thing. They just didn't have the votes, and we don't have a rule structure that lets them do it. So a majority can move ahead and do the right thing, which I'm proud of Republicans and a few very brave Democrats have done. But this is a problem we're going to continue to wrestle with. Hopefully, the fact that we have new leadership at Homeland Security in the form of Markwayne Mullin, who is, quite frankly, well-liked and well-respected in the United States Senate, will encourage Democrats in the Senate to make some changes. But again, don't think this is just about Donald Trump. They are afraid of their own voters. They are doing this because we have a lot of people that hate the president so much. My gosh, he's had to go through 2 assassination attempts, and who knows what the guy they caught on Mar-a-Lago with a gun and a gas can was up to. Maybe he had a 3rd assassination attempt. But regardless, we got to get past this, and certainly the American government has to continue to work. The commitment I'll make to you is we got almost all the funding done. And that took a lot of compromise, a lot of give and take with the Democrats in the House and the Senate. And we, we're 97% there. And I have to compliment my Democratic colleagues in the House because they've done the right thing. Even when we disagreed, even they voted no, on a lot of other things they voted yes. And had it not been for 21 brave Democrats, we'd be in a government-wide shutdown, not just ICE, but the entire government. So I always say, I don't always agree with 21 Democrats. Matter of fact, I mostly disagree with them, but we work together. We found common ground, and I appreciate them. It is inexplicable to me why Democrats in the United States Senate cannot do the same thing, why they cannot find common ground. They have gotten several concessions, they've gotten a change in leadership, yet they continue to close down the government. And that's, as I said earlier, that's not only irresponsible, it's irrational. So on that happy note, I'll bring this to a close, but look, this is going to be a very consequential time in the weeks ahead. We've got to solve this homeland security problem. We will. We have to deal with Iran. I believe we will. I think we're doing the right thing. It's a challenging thing, not always a popular thing, but I think the president's done the right thing for the country. And we've got to get the appropriations process done, a lot of other legislation done. And then in Oklahoma, we've got a lot of big decisions to make. We're going to have a new governor. Now we're going to have a new United States Senator. That may open up other positions for people to think about. But the one thing I'm confident in, we have lots of good choices. The people I've heard that are seriously considering this race or being asked to consider it are people you can be proud of, people you can vote for. Matter of fact, my big nightmare on this race is I got a lot of friends in here, and I'm going to have to, I'll probably be pretty quiet about it, but it's tough because these are people I served with, like, and think have done a good job for the state and would do a good job in the United States Senate. So we'll see how that works out. But in the meantime, in these very tumultuous and very dangerous times, I hope God blesses you, God blesses your family. I hope you're safe, and please pray for our men and women that are in combat overseas right now, trying to make sure that we do not have to face the kind of dangers that other countries do. They're dealing with a problem far away from us, so that that problem does not come here, and let alone come in the form of a nuclear weapon or an attack. And then pray for the men and women that are defending our homeland, the men and women, Department of Homeland Security, that our fellow Oklahoman Markwayne Mullin will soon head. They put their lives on the line every day too. They do a great job for us, and we still live in the freest, most prosperous, and most secure country in the world because Americans are willing to do that. Oklahomans are willing to do that. Our friend Markwayne Mullin just stepped up to do that this week. So look forward to chatting with you again next week.